Extroverted, spontaneous and loved by all, Kita might appear to be the opposite of Bocchi, but ends up serving as the clearest mirror to her character. And episode 3 of Bocchi the Rock is Kita's episode for sure. See, I had said in my episode 1 and 2 review that the story begins as a simple origin of the band forming as told through the colourful perspective of Bocchi. Nijika and Ryo were interesting but largely background characters awaiting development, and although episode 3 starts back with Hitori trying to make friends by bringing her guitar to school again and hoping her classmates will strike up a conversation with her about it, the episode ends up being the first where we really feel the presence of a full cast of developed characters. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's start at the beginning because Hitori does get some interesting development too in the first few minutes of the episode at least. Although her classmates still fail to register her existence, she hears two of them discussing radwimps, and awkwardly fails to burst into the conversation with a kind of nervous excitement before freezing awkwardly and just withering away. Fresh from this failure, she retires to eat lunch under a school stairwell again, much like at home, retiring into a small dark corner, pondering what the other girls must have thought of her. And it's interesting because given that Bocchi would give anything to be seen, you start to notice her resentment for her hiding spots, where she resides less out of choice and more out of her fear of her own social failings. Her dreams of being an interviewed celebrity, reminiscing to a presenter in the future about these pathetic early years, and well, that is until she is awakened from her daydream as she overhears Kita in the hallway above being approached by friends who all adore the talented redhead, and thus the Kita journey begins. Now, out the gate, I should say that episode 3 is the funniest and most heartwarming yet, bringing so much more depth to the cast, but it is absolutely also a weirdly paced tale of two halves. I mean, in the first half of the episode, you can absolutely feel the writers kind of hurrying the plot along before the series reaches its quarter distance, trying to make sure that all of the cast is properly established. However, in spite of this, episode 3 kind of sits on a real knife edge that allows it to just about work. See, on the one hand, within the first half of this episode, Bocchi finds Kita, fails to introduce herself, Kita finds Bocchi, there are revelations that Kita left her last band, Bocchi recruits Kita, takes her to a band practice, and Kita suddenly realizes she's being taken back to the very same band that she actually left, if you didn't see that plot twist coming, and hilarity ensues. However, within this same quick sequence of events that does kind of lean slightly back to what I was saying before about certain contrivances slipping in, we do also get to see the disparity between Kita's image and her self-belief, her social successes and her musical accomplishments or lack thereof. And as Bocchi struggles to comprehend Kita's social ease and grace, Kita is also in awe at the same time of Bocchi's musical depth and ability to self-learn the guitar. And during their first exchange, we even get to see our first glimpse of Bocchi enduring a compliment. The aforementioned band revelation also further serves up some great laughs as the layers of lies and secrets give way to the more delicate truth of who each of the characters really is. And through all of this, the stoic Ryo in particular is really fleshed out as a character. In fact, Ryo's stoic, experienced bandleader image is finally given credence by Kita's admission that she actually idolizes Ryo, her former senpai, before Kita ran out of the band, afraid to admit that she couldn't actually play guitar. However, Ryo's quick assumption that Kita must have therefore died, combined with her constantly being broke and looking for money, and never even having realized that Kita didn't actually have a guitar. Once the guitar case is open, there is a fantastic punchline. This all goes to show that Ryo's reputation and mystique is somewhat of a self-perpetuating prophecy. The more stoic and odd she behaves, the more Kita perceives it as genius. I think anyone who's worked with unsigned musicians will know a Ryo, which makes her actually kind of more of an immediately engaging and likable character. It's kind of an inside joke, but it's also a very relatable and likeable nod towards a sort of person who we all kind of secretly know and admire in our own way. See, in a sea of ego-flaunting would-be rock stars and tiresome virtue-signalling hipsters, the confidently aloof musician of few words is often prized amongst other musicians more than you'd think. And yes, they're usually bassists. Ryo never baits nor dissuades the respect she's given, even coming through to help Kita at the end of the episode in a way that, well, only aids in furthering her oddball mystique at the same time. Speaking of which, let's move on to the second half of the episode, which is actually a much slower burn, focusing on the characters working through their feelings regarding being a reunited band. I won't spoiler it, but there is a beautiful final moment where Bocchi has to break out of her shell to keep her musical family together that you'd have to be a fucking monster to not get a lump in your throat over. Again, Bocchi the Rock is a series that seems to earn its greatest moments from its subtlest interactions. Yeah, I got a good laugh watching the painfully obvious revelation unfold in the first half of the episode, but the highlight of the half hour was a simple conversation between a calm Kita and a passionate Bocchi at the end that had built up over a few minutes of quiet dialogue. So here we are. The characters are all in place, the scene is set, and the series producers continue to show an amazing skill for heartfelt humour. They show us that they understand their characters and know how to portray them in a way that is artistic, amusing, and also really does get the point across about what it's like to be someone who wants to become more than they are, despite whatever their shortcomings may be. And yes, each of the members has a very clearly, interestingly defined shortcoming of their own. So, where should this series go now? Well, before any serious obstacles befall our Kesoku band heroes, I can tell you personally that I'm excited to see more of Bocchi's journey, how her and Kita play off each other as complementary opposites of each other's characters, more of Ryo's superb dry humour, and if there is a backstory to Nijika's family venue. So, if the first quarter of the series was a brilliant setup, let the Bocchi story begin.